Ever wondered what's behind your Netflix recommendations or how your email magically knows what's junk? It's all machine learning. And yeah, it can seem super complicated. So today, we're going to demystify it, and we're going to do it fast.
So we managed to get our hands on a final exam from a university machine learning course, and we're going to use its questions to guide us. Why? Well, think about it. A final exam is designed to hit all the most important, the most foundational concepts. If you can get your head around these answers, you're already most of the way there to understanding the whole field.
So yeah, you can forget the all-night study sessions. We're just going to burn through the highlights, the core ideas that you absolutely have to know. Ready? Let's dive in. Okay, first up, the big picture. Pretty much everything in machine learning falls into one of three main buckets. And it all boils down to what you're trying to do and, what kind of data you're working with. What's so cool here is just how simple these core ideas are. First, you've got supervised learning. This is like you're giving the computer flashcards. The data already has the right answers labeled on it. Then you've got unsupervised learning, which is the complete opposite. It's like you dump a messy pile of Legos on the floor and just say, hey, find some patterns here, sort these for me. And finally, there's reinforcement learning. That's pure trial and error, rewarding the machine for good choices, exactly like giving a dog a treat when it learns a new trick.
So let's zoom in on supervised learning for a minute, mostly because it's the one you bump into all the time in your daily life. Its main job is making predictions, and it's got two real powerhouse tools for getting it done.
And the easiest way to think about these two tools really just comes down to one question. Are you trying to predict a number, like a price, or a category, like yes or no? Your answer to that question tells you exactly which tool you need to grab.
So here's the deal. Linear regression is all about drawing a line through data to predict a continuous number, right? Think a house price or stock value. Logistic regression, though, that's all about probability. It doesn't just give you a hard yes or no for is this spam? It tells you how confident it is, like there's a 98% chance this email is total spam.
Now, here's a huge warning that comes with all supervised learning. It's called overfitting. This is what happens when your model gets too good. It becomes a perfectionist with the data you trained it on, but then it just completely falls apart the second it sees something new. The analogy is just perfect. It's like you memorize the practice exam inside and out, but you never actually learn the concepts. So of course you're going to fail the real test.
Okay, but what if you don't have all the answers neatly labeled? What if all you have is just a giant mountain of raw information? Well, that's where unsupervised learning comes in and just absolutely shines. It's all about finding hidden structures you didn't even know were there to begin with.
So how in the world does a machine do that? The main technique is called clustering. The whole point is to take this big cloud of data points and just figure out which ones naturally belong together in little groups, or clusters. Think about a company trying to find different groups of customers for marketing. They aren't telling the machine what to look for, they're asking it to find those groups on its own.
And this process is just brilliant. There's an algorithm called k-means, and here's how it works. First, the machine just randomly plops down a few points that it guesses are the centers of the clusters. Then, it assigns every single data point to whichever center is closest. Next, it moves the center point to the new middle of that group it just created. And then it just does it again and again, assign, move, until the groups stabilize and the centers stop moving. It's this really elegant little dance of finding order in chaos.
All right, let's get to the big one. This is the topic that powers pretty much all the modern AI you hear about, from self-driving cars to things like ChatGPT. We're talking about neural networks. This is the heavy hitter on the exam.
And the core idea here is actually really intuitive. Scientists literally just looked at the human brain, with its billions of interconnected neurons all firing signals at each other, and they thought, hey, what if we built a computer model that kind of works the same way? And it turns out the answer was a huge yes.
So the basic building block of these things is called the perceptron. You could just think of it as one single artificial neuron. It takes in some information, it makes a really simple decision based on that info, and then it passes a signal along. Now, by itself, a single one isn't very smart. But when you start connecting thousands or even millions of them together, well, that's when you get a multi-layer network where information flows in one direction. The input layer grabs the raw data, say all the pixels in a photo of a cat. That data then flows through these hidden layers where all the neurons work together to recognize more and more complex things. First, they see edges, then maybe whiskers, then ears, and finally a whole cat face. And then the output layer gives you the final answer. Yep, that's a cat.
So how does it actually learn to recognize the cat in the first place? That is the magic of something called backpropagation. When the network gets it wrong, let's say it calls a cat a dog, this algorithm works backwards from that mistake. It goes back and tweaks the connections between all the neurons just a tiny little bit to make it more likely it'll get it right the next time. It is literally learning from its own experience.
So at the end of the day, all these amazing concepts fit into a practical workflow called the ML pipeline. You always start with a question and you go get your data. Then comes the not-so-glamorous part, cleaning and preparing it. Then you have to pick the right model for the job. Is this a regression problem, a clustering problem, or do you need a full-blown neural network? You train it, you test it to make sure it works, and finally, you deploy it out into the real world to start doing its thing.
And there you have it. We've just sprinted through the core of a university machine learning course in just a few minutes, from the 3 basic ways machines learn all the way to the inner workings of a neural network. So the final exam question is actually for you. The next time your phone suggests the word you're about to type, or a streaming service picks the perfect movie for you, which of these concepts do you think is at work? Because now you know the answers are all around you.